On December 10th, 2008, at his Manhattan apartment, Bernard Madoff told his sons Mark and Andrew that his business was finished, that he had nothing left, and that the fund was, in his words, basically a giant Ponzi scheme. The day before, he had told his brother Peter. About a week earlier, he had told his deputy Frank DiPascali he was out of money. The next morning, his sons reported him to the FBI. When an agent said they were there to find out if there was an innocent explanation, Madoff, then 70, replied, "There's no innocent explanation. This is the part people forget." In 1960, Madoff founded his firm with about $5,000 saved from lifeguarding and installing sprinklers, plus a $50,000 loan from his father-in-law. He built a genuinely innovative market-making business, pioneered payment for order flow, and served as chairman of NASDAQ in 1990, 1991, and 1993. By 2008, his firm was the sixth largest market maker in S&P 500 stocks. According to the SEC's own watchdog, that real-world credibility was a major reason the fraud could attract billions with so little scrutiny. On the 17th floor of the Lipstick Building, separate from the legitimate firm, a team of fewer than 24 people ran the advisory business. According to prosecutors and Madoff's own guilty plea, no securities were actually bought. Client deposits went into a single JP Morgan Chase account, and withdrawals were paid out of other people's incoming deposits. Madoff admitted he had not really traded since the early 1990s. That single fact set the entire chain in motion, a machine that must take in more money than it pays out, forever or die. To explain impossibly steady returns, Madoff claimed a split-strike conversion strategy, buying baskets of blue-chip stocks while hedging with options. Court testimony established it was fiction. DiPascali's team used an aging IBM AS/400 computer to manufacture fake trade confirmations and monthly statements, cherry-picking real winners and backdating trades to hit the promised numbers. Prosecutors said they even built a random number generator to simulate trade times across time zones and a phantom trading platform to fool auditors. Madoff kept old letterhead to forge prior year records. Madoff rarely solicited most victims himself. Feeder funds pooled investor money and funneled it to him for enormous fees, often without telling clients where it actually went. Fairfield Greenwich's Century Fund alone funneled more than $7 billion to Madoff and earned Fairfield roughly $400 million in fees between 2005 and 2008, charging about double its competitors. Critics later argued that fee incentive was the Snowball. The people best positioned to ask hard questions were paid handsomely not to. Madoff worked trusted circles, the country clubs of Long Island and Palm Beach, where exclusivity discouraged due diligence. The scheme nearly surfaced in 1992 when the SEC investigated feeder accountants Avellino and Bienz, who had sold $441.9 million of unregistered notes to about 3,100 investors at curiously steady returns of 13.5 to 20%. The trade records they cited, verified by Madoff, were forgeries. The SEC shut them down, Madoff returned nearly all of the money, and regulators never looked at Madoff himself. Quantitative analyst Harry Markopoulos said he knew within 5 minutes the numbers could not be real, and took 4 hours to prove it. Over an 87-month span, Madoff reported only about 3 losing months, while the S&P 500 had 28, a near impossibility he compared to a hitter batting .966 all season. He filed with the SEC in 2000, again in 2001, and in November 2005 submitted a 21-page memo titled "The World's Largest Hedge Fund is a Fraud," listing roughly 30 red flags. The SEC did not act on it. The SEC's own Inspector General later found the agency received 6 substantive complaints between June 1992 and December 2008 and ran 3 examinations and 2 investigations, yet, in its words, a thorough and competent investigation was never performed. The single most damning lapse, the report said, the SEC never verified Madoff's claimed trades with an independent third party like the clearinghouse, a step that would have shown no trades existed. A 3-person audit firm in a strip mall signed off on a multi-billion-dollar operation and no one questioned it. A Ponzi can only survive if new money keeps flowing in faster than old money flows out. The 2008 crisis reversed that. After Lehman Brothers collapsed in September and credit froze, panicked investors rushed to redeem from the source they trusted most and believed most liquid, Madoff. Roughly $7 billion in redemption requests hit a Chase account that had drained from well over $5 billion to about $234 million he could not borrow to cover it. The defining weakness of every Ponzi was finally exposed. Even in the final days, money kept arriving. Carl Shapiro invested $250 million on December 1st, and Martin Rosenman wired $10 million on December 5th. On December 10th, Madoff proposed paying over $170 million in employee bonuses early, then confessed to his sons. He was arrested December 11th, 2008. The SEC charged him the same day, initially alleging a $50 billion fraud, Prosecutors sized the fraud at $64.8 billion, the fictitious balances across about 4,800 accounts as of November 30th, 2008. The actual cash that investors put in and lost was closer to $17.5 billion, with prosecutors citing tens of thousands of victims across more than 100 countries. Major banks faced heavy exposure. Banco Santander had roughly $3.1 billion of client money at risk, HSBC about $1 billion. Feeder fund manager René-Thierry Magon de la Ville-Huchet died by suicide days after the arrest. Madoff's son Mark died by suicide on December 11, 2010, the exact second anniversary of the arrest. On March 12, 2009, Madoff pleaded guilty to 11 felony counts. On June 29, 2009, Judge Denny Chin sentenced him to 150 years, the maximum, and ordered a notional forfeiture of about $170 billion, a flow of funds figure, not cash on hand. He died in federal prison on April 14, 2021. Trustee Irving Picard used the net equity method, clawing back fictitious profits, and has recovered roughly 3/4 of the principal investors actually lost, an exceptionally high rate for a fraud of this kind. The collapse helped drive Dodd-Frank's SEC whistleblower program, paying tipsters 10 to 30% of large sanctions, and a separate SEC custody rule requiring surprise independent audits. The trap that caught a former NASDAQ chairman is still set. Not every smooth return is a fraud. Many legitimate strategies are low volatility. But unexplained smoothness deserves scrutiny because real markets have losing months. Where you can, insist that your money sits with an independent third-party custodian, not the same person who picks the investments and prints your statements. Check that the auditor is real and independent. And remember that affinity and exclusivity, the sense that you are lucky to be let in, are persuasion tactics, not credentials. If a strategy cannot be explained to you clearly, treat that as a reason to ask more questions. None of this is advice about any specific investment, just the pattern history keeps repeating.